So the meaning response is it's another way of saying what we sort of colloquially think of as the placebo effect. But the meaning response is it's semantically a better term. The placebo effect is something that you get when you hand somebody a fake pill and you give them the impression that there's an active ingredient in that pill. That's when there's an impact of that on a patient. We call that a placebo effect. But an example I use in the book of a meaning response is, for instance, there's a disease entity in pediatrics that we all know about called failure to thrive. And this is just a beautiful example of an issue where the meaning response is deeply tied into exactly what happens with healing and wellness. Because failure to thrive is something that pediatricians frequently make a diagnosis of when they see a child who falls off the growth chart. They stop growing at the rate that they're supposed to be growing. Sometimes they end up getting organ failure, creatinine bumps, kidney problems, etc. All of these things, they stop feeding well, they go into sort of starvation states. All of these very important bodily changes occur in failure to thrive children. Failure to thrive is a diagnosis that's frequently seen in refugee camps for children. It's frequently seen in abused and neglected children. And all of these things, they don't map to simply starvation. In other words, if the only thing that has happened is that the child is having sort of vitamin deficiencies and going into sort of a ketotic or starvation state, if that's all that's happening, they shouldn't be getting a good deal of the liver and kidney failure that they frequently get, the neurologic changes that they frequently begin to have, the infections that they begin to contract. None of those things should happen on the basis of the starvation alone. So it's not just about feeding. There's some bodily reaction that's going on there in these abused, neglected children who are in, and in some cases, humanitarian crises. These children have a reaction to their surroundings. It is the world around them that is affecting them. And almost universally, the way to heal these children is, at the risk of sounding very trite, to love them. For them to be touched and cradled and loved and fed and supported almost always will bring them back onto the growth chart. They will start to grow again. They will start to eat again. Their kidney failure will evaporate. All of these things begin to happen. And why did it happen? Well, it's certainly not because children are suggestible. It's not because they had a placebo response. It's nothing to do with any of that. It has to do with the fact that there is some sort of neurohumoral reaction and action that's happening in their body as a response to their surroundings. So there's meaning in what's happening around them. They perceive and infuse meaning in the issues and the activities around them. And the meaning that they perceive in the things that are happening around them, that meaning has an impact on their brain and their body. And the mind and body are profoundly tied in together in this. When the brain perceives that they are being loved and supported and touched and fed and cared about, all of those things end up synergistically leading to healing of the organs that are failing, and growth, and muscular strength, and all of the things that correct in failure to thrive children correct because of the love and caring around them. The only way to explain that is that there is in fact some sort of reaction to their surroundings that they've had, that their body has undertaken independently. That's a meaning response. The meaning response is incredibly powerful, and it's not just in failure to thrive. It's in every pill that we ever hand out. Sometimes it's in an x-ray. Sometimes it's in an interaction that we have. Sometimes it's in an acupuncturist's candlelight and music. Who knows exactly where it is? But we bring meaning to the things that we perceive. And when we perceive them, they are not only meaningful to us, our bodies react to them. That reaction is, it turns out, incredibly important for healing and wellness. And there's fascinating research where they take a bunch of college kids and they put them in a couple of rooms. And in one room, they take the kids and they ask them, a bunch of 18-year-olds, they say, hey, write an essay about the walls and the windows and the chalkboard. And then in the other room, they randomize the kids into these different rooms. In this other room, they say, I want you to write about the most powerful and important thing that ever happened to you in your life. And if you watch the videotapes of these kids, in one room, they're writing and they're just sort of looking around, observing, writing about the walls. In the other room, many of them are crying. You can see they're profoundly affected by what they're writing about. It's an emotional half an hour for them. They're supposed to write about something that was very important in their lives, that was powerful, and they do. If you follow those kids for the next 6 months, the kids who wrote about the powerful thing that happened to them in their lives, they get sick a lot less frequently. They get fewer viral syndromes. They get fewer coughs and colds. They end up being hospitalized less frequently for significant illness. Now, why is that? Something happens there in the expression of emotion. Something happens that is powerful and meaningful to those kids, and it has an effect on their health. Exactly what is that effect? I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't say that any of us understands exactly why that happens and what the mediators are in our body of that reaction. But there can be no doubt that there is a reaction. It changes us and it changes things to perceive, to express, to communicate. And in modern medicine, we've pretty much set all of that aside in favor of a scientific model where mind and body are separate and where we go for a sort of aloof, emotionless interaction, and where we try and fix patients using our science and our pills and our prescriptions, and we neglect the communication that has a powerful, powerful healing potential.